Hello and welcome back to the Watford Way. Today, as we discuss, for me, what was quite a disappointing 2-2 draw at home to West Brom under the lights at a very, very wet and windy Vicarage Road. Probably the worst ever conditions I've seen Watford play in personally. Firstly, I got absolutely soaking walking to the ground and walking back home. And then second half especially, I mean, the rain just got worse and worse and worse to the point where I really couldn't even see the other side of the pitch. It was that bad. That shows how difficult it would have been for the players in that second half. And I think the second half reflected that. Obviously, all the goals in the game come very early on in the first half and the weather wasn't so bad. Not that I'm blaming the weather for Watford's performance, but I think West Brom and Watford were both affected by the weather in the second half, and it did show in mistakes that were made and certain patterns of play that the game just didn't have that flow to it that it did so in the first half. But let's talk about the Watford goals first before we talk about the defensive errors and mistakes once again, because that seems to be the story of our season so far. Going forward, we've looked quite lively and quite exciting, especially through certain players, which I'll touch on. But defensively, it's the same players who are getting picked and making the same mistakes again and again. So I'll talk about that slightly later on in the video. But firstly, we'll touch on the goals. And the first Watford goal for Tom Ince coming in this game. Some great work by Matthias Martins down the left-hand side. He lays it off to Loser on the right flank. Loser kind of lays it off again to Tom Ince, who strikes it first time into that far corner. It's a fantastic finish for Tom Ince's first Watford goal. Wasn't really a lot of power on it. He just placed the shot in that far corner 2 minutes into the game, and what a way to get going on a cold, wet, rainy night at Vicarage Road. It was the perfect start, but unfortunately we made a defensive error. Jeremy Ngakia faffing about on the edge of the Watford penalty area. I always say, if in doubt, hoof it out. And when I say hoof it out, I mean boot the ball up the pitch. Ngakia did not do so. Obviously, we're trying to play out from the back, and we've been trying to do that throughout the season. However, I think in some instances, if you are in a little bit of trouble and there's nowhere really for you to go, just hoof it out for a throw-in or hoof it up the pitch. I'd much rather that than giving away, a free kick in a silly area. It's a fantastic position for the West Brom free kick. And I have to question Danny Batman, saving this as well. I think that the wall he set up was good, but he has to trust his wall. And what ended up happening was, Batman was kind of setting his goal and he took 2 steps to the right behind his wall when free kick was struck. Whereas if he just stood where he was and let the wall do their job, he would have actually maybe even caught or saved a free kick. Whereas taking the 2 steps to the right as he did so, and I'm sure you've seen in the replays, it meant, it wasn't the free kick wasn't even placed in the top corner. It wasn't struck with loads of power, but it just meant taking them 2 small steps to the right. It didn't give him enough time to kind of get back to his original position and save it, which was disappointing for me. And I'm not a goalkeeping expert, so I'm not going to sit here and berate him further, as I've said so many times this season and in previous seasons before. But I think any person who knows any basic knowledge of football will know that in that situation, you trust your wall and then you stay where you are. Because if he stays where he is in that scenario, he saves a free kick for me. But Watford hit back very quickly through Matthias Martins. He's probably been our player of the season so far. Again, his trademark move, running down that left-hand side. He cuts back inside on his right foot and he curls the shot into the bottom right-hand corner of the West Brom goal. What a strike again from Matthias Martins. That goal specifically reminded me of the one he scored at Coventry. Slightly different finishes. He's really good at striking the ball. He's so classy, Matthias Martins. Wears number 37 as well, and reminds me a little bit of Roberto Pereira during his time at Watford. So a great goal from Matthias Martins. And then Jed Wallace got West Brom's equaliser, I think about 22 minutes into the game. Again, poor defending, not from Jeremy Ngakia this time, but from our other fullback, James Morris, who had a really poor game, in my opinion. Again, faffing about with the ball. If in doubt, hoof it out. He didn't do that. He faffed about. He tried to get it under control. Ultimately, got muscled off the ball. Cross went into Jed Wallace in the Watford penalty area. And I'm not going to blame Daniel Batman for that one. It was a good shot. It was well placed. And that equaled the game up 22 minutes into the first half, 2-2. And as I mentioned previously, the second half, the weather just got so bad that either side really probably just wanted to get back in the changing rooms and go home. It wasn't very enjoyable watching from the stands. I got absolutely drenched. My clothes are still drying outside my room at the moment from yesterday. I got very wet indeed. Positives from the game to take, absolutely. Offensively, I think we look really good. As a team, generally, we look much more exciting to watch than last season. It's very positive. I like the way the players kind of back each other up in certain situations. There's certainly more passion there than last season. Imran Louza berating the lino towards the end of the second half yesterday. We never saw anything like that last season. Last season, the players looked very lethargic, looked like they didn't want to wear the shirt. This season, it's totally different. But our defensive mistakes and maybe weaknesses in certain areas are being exposed a little bit in recent weeks as well. Ryan Porteous went off injured during the game, which is concerning for me. It doesn't look like a muscular injury or anything like that. It just looks like he took a heavy whack to the chest. So hopefully he'll be okay. But Matty Pollock, for me, didn't look that solid and composed when he come on, albeit, as I said, the weather was really dreadful. And even me, if I was getting paid 5 or 10 grand a week, I would not want to be out there playing football in that weather yesterday. It really was that bad. But look, as I said, positives to take from the game, but a tough test this weekend against Leeds. I think for me personally, I did want to win the game against West Brom. I think 3 points is vital against teams like that, where we're going to be in similar positions this season, ideally, or probably, I should say. So yeah, I think I was just disappointed that if them defensive mistakes weren't made, we probably should have come away and would have come away with the 3 points yesterday. But hey ho, it is what it is. It's football, it happens. And as I said, we move on to Leeds this weekend. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the game and make sure to subscribe to The Watford Way so you don't miss any of our content in the coming days and weeks. Goodbye.